We fought side by side, lost brothers and sisters, came home with scars we don't always talk about. We carried the weight through deployments, transition, and the quiet war that followed. But after all we gave, where's the place that reflects our story? For the global war on terrorism generation, that place is being built. Today's guest isn't just a combat tested Special Forces veteran, he's leading the effort to create a national memorial in Washington, D.C. that honors everyone who served, sacrificed, and lived through the longest war in America's history. This isn't about politics or policy, it's about people, us, and the legacy we're leaving behind. But before we dive into this episode, make sure you're subscribed to the email newsletter at driveonpodcast.com/subscribe. You'll get my 5 favorite episodes sent straight to your inbox, no fluff, just the best insights to help you drive on. Now, let's get into today's episode with Michael Rodríguez. Hey, Rod, welcome to the show. Really glad to have you here. Really been looking forward to this conversation for quite some time, but really glad to have you here now.
No, I'm excited to be here, Hermano. I really appreciate the opportunity to come here and chat. I've gotten to know each other pretty well over since meeting at Mick. So definitely looking forward to continuing the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm looking forward to the conversation as well. I know when we met at Mick, it was one of those things where I was like, I got to get this guy on the show, and here we are. Finally got you on the show, and we're getting it done. But for the listeners who maybe aren't familiar with you, tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you deployed 10 times. You've spent years in the Special Forces community. For those folks who don't know about you and your background a little bit, tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of the experiences that you've had, and anything that you're willing to share, kind of along the way.
Sure thing. Before I'm gonna do that, I'll talk about you. So you said something. Yeah, I gotta get this guy on the show. So when we met, I think we both had similar motives. After getting to know more about your story and learning, I was like, man, I gotta get this guy on the team. So I want to take this chance to thank you on this podcast for joining the foundation at the start of this year as our uniform service fellow. The Jawbreaker fellow, one of our Jawbreaker fellows. It's really, really important for me that we bring the voice of everybody. And there's a lot of people that don't talk about themselves, like you, I want to be sure your voices are heard. So before I go into me, I want to recognize you and thank you for the continued leadership you've provided. Given your history of service, your service, and then the tremendous loss that I think we all felt as a nation, but you did personally with the passing of your brother. So I'm going to start there.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, hermano. No, it's important, and that's and we'll talk about the importance of storytelling and keeping things alive. I'm sure later on. So
yeah, sure.
About me, so I'm from southern New Mexico. I grew up I was born on the border with New Mexico and Mexico, down in a town called Deming, but I grew up in Las Cruces. And my first heroes growing up were my father, who served in Vietnam during the Tet Offensive, and then my uncles or my great uncles and grandfathers who served during World War II. Those are my heroes. I like Spider-Man 2 as a kid, and I'm a little older. That was like in the 80s. I was born in 74, so it was. But those guys are my heroes. So they really truly inspired me to serve our nation, because my men are the men in my family are incredibly stoic and reserved men. Traditional. Chicano culture, just quiet and reserved. They don't say anything unless they got to say something. Never see any emotion. But one thing that struck me as a child growing up was, I'm the oldest grandchild on my father's side. So I asked a lot of questions. I played with the Green Army men. We'd buy at Kmart and the little green tanks. And I knew they served because my abuelita, my grandmother, had the pictures of them on the wall. And, I'd see them in uniform, and they were just so different than the men in my life at that time. The grown-up version of those kids on the wall that went to war, and I would ask questions, and they never really talked about the war. And those of us, you as well, that have stepped into that arena and done some of the stuff that we've done or experienced or seen or whatever it is. Those that gone to war. And we don't glamorize it. There's nothing glamorous about it. So they never glamorized it, and these are some like I said, my father served during Tet offenses, one of the deadliest year during the Vietnam conflict. My grandfather's, my great uncles were part of the Normandy invasion. One was airborne and jumped in, but they never talked about any of that. One of my uncles was part of one of the bomber crews and has 23 missions of what he calls delivering the good news over Germany. That's what that's what he called it. But they never talked, other than that, they never talked about stuff. But when they did speak, when I'd asked, they finally they spoke about those they served with. And that's when their tone changed and emotion came out that I hadn't really experienced from seeing them express. And they spoke about them, the reverence and love. And for me, we're incredibly family focused, familias primero, right? Like families first. That inspired me to serve, to grow my own, familia, my own family. So I joined the Army, 92. I was blessed. I think I forced cut my way through life and getting into situations or getting opportunities presented or whatever you want to call it. I joined the Army in 92. Probably the dumbest private I think the Army's ever had. And then, at the start of 93, just a few months later, I was deployed to Somalia in 1993 and got to experience, really what the United States military does. Well, we don't just go after bad guys and hunt down terrorists and provide safety, security, and freedom, not just for our nation, but for those across the globe. But we also provide hope, safety, security. I mean, there's so many things we do. So that mission, it was to, address the famine that was going on at the time because the warlords in Mogadishu were taking the food. So we would escort. And, I left prior to the Black Hawk Down incident, which occurred in October of that year of 93. But prior to that, I mean, there was all little, skirmishes, whatever you want to call it, going on, but nothing really significant. But that was when I saw what we did in addition to, defending our nation. And I remember delivering food to these food distribution sites with various NGOs that were there, that the food not got there had we not been there. But you go there and you have these, like a camp of children all under tarps, huddled together in little groups, hundreds, if not thousands sometimes. No parents around, no adults. They'd all passed away, whether through famine or HIV/AIDS. And we show up, and these kids are your typical, missing hair, missing teeth, bellies distended, severe malnutrition. But when we roll up, these children would get up, and they would come to where we were with, the most beautiful smiles I'd ever seen in my life. Right? These are human beings, children living from moment to moment. And then just because of us being there, we were providing that hope. It was called Operation Restore Hope initially, the deployment in 93. And, that instilling hope, I mean, it's just a powerful thing. And that love that we shared, it was just incredibly impactful for me as a young, dumb 18-year-old private. So that was when I decided I wanted to do that the rest of my life. I decided I wanted to go into Special Forces to be a Green Beret, because during that deployment, I saw Special Forces ODA, Operational Detachment Alpha, and they weren't wearing all the crap we were wearing. They were just cool. They just looked different. They had guns I hadn't really been familiar with, and one of their vehicles, that when we'd see them, they had a pet monkey. And, I was like, oh my gosh, I would love to be able to have a pet monkey. I couldn't even put my hands in my pockets at that time, right? But these guys had a pet monkey. So that was inspirational for me. But then after the Somalia deployment, another deployment, I was at 10th Mountain Division at the time, another deployment popped up, Operation Restore Democracy. That's when there was a military coup that occurred in Haiti, where the general overthrew the government, the democratically elected president. And our nation responded in force. I was part of the task force that was on one of the aircraft carriers that went down there. There was one conventional unit. It was 10th Mountain Division again on the USS Enterprise. And then JSOC had their own aircraft carrier. They had birds circling, the 82nd and the 75th Rangers. SF teams, Green Berets, were already on ground, as well as some other assets. And, thankfully, the guy who had initiated coup was like, all right, okay, never mind. Maybe I shouldn't do this. But as the conventional unit in the area, we got to stay there and help secure the government. So that was my second deployment. I saw SF team there again. just doing different stuff. Every time we get somewhere, they would seem to be there. And it was shortly after that where I was like, I think I'm ready. It's just something I want to do. And I went to selection to pursue becoming a Green Beret.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you were talking about those kids in Somalia with the smile on their face. That probably, and I wasn't there, but that I have to imagine that probably was just coming from a place of pure joy, seeing these soldiers coming in with the food that they desperately needed, obviously, right? That was wreaking havoc through their communities and their lives, and everything was just getting destroyed because they didn't have this. And then here you are coming in, and it's like, here you go, here's that stuff that you've been missing. And it's like, my God, I could just imagine the joy coming out of those kids' faces. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I can't even, and these are children that are living moment to moment, right? Like literally living moment to moment. One of the NGO workers had told me that they do patrols, not for security, but with the camps to check the vitals on the children. Cause sometimes, they just pass, right?
Yeah.
And they're laying there next to their peers, and it was very impactful for me, and I think, put me on, made me shoot my azimuth and stay on it to try and do, serve our nation in the military as long as I possibly could.
Well, and it shows just the impact that you can have on not even just a country or a community or a portion of the country, but on that one individual. You look at that one individual, and it's like that made such a difference in that person's life. And sometimes when you look at one soldier in the grand scheme of the United States Army or the military as a whole, you look at that one soldier, it's like, what impact could I really have? But you look at that story and you put you and that kid together, and it's like you had a pretty damn good impact on that kid. So that's
I
awesome.
hope so.
You did.
I try not to, those are, especially when you come across those like in a true state of oppression.
Yeah.
Oppressed, perceived oppression, but like a true state of oppression. You just don't know.
Yeah.
I like to, I hope and I pray, I really do, that some of them are still around, but, realistically, I don't know how long they survived,
Sure.
but you've seen that impact and the opportunity to be part of something like that.
Well,
It's something bigger than ourselves that I know speaks to you.
mm-hmm.
Spoke to your brother, obviously. Speaks to all of us that have served or sacrificed in so many different ways. Serving something bigger than yourself. I really believe that's why we were put on this planet.
100%. Yeah. And it's definitely bigger than ourselves, and that's awesome. But let's fast forward a little bit. So you were medically retired from the Army in 2013. Tell us about the transition. You could tell us, as much or as little as you want about that, or that the circumstances leading up to that, or whatever you're comfortable with. But were you prepared for that transition? Did anything like that, or how did that go?
I was not. I wasn't prepared for it. I was not. I was medically retired. So a little bit more story is, as I continued to serve, I started. I say collecting TBIs, brain injuries. There was a number of incidents in training and on deployments where I would, get knocked out, right? Missing a fast rope on some fast rope infiltration at 35 feet and go land like a dawn dart because you're wearing 65, 70 pounds of gear up, right? But I'm like, I joke around quite a bit about some of my experiences because, I'm a roach, man. They could not get rid of me. I just kept coming back. It was very hard, but brain injuries accumulate over time.
Yeah.
And, that, and then a lot of the experiences that I personally, had, you don't have time to process that. You don't have time to do anything with that. So you just put those in a shoebox, throw it in the corner in the closet. And but as, with the operational tempo that we started experiencing, post 9/11, I was fortunate that I became a Green Beret prior to, and got to do some of that stuff prior to the global war on terrorism. But then after that, things just really picked up a lot, things became a lot more kinetic. And so anyway, I a lot of injuries. You've blown up a few times. Eating charges. It's something that people from our community are pretty familiar with. Is you go to place an explosive breaching charge onto an entry point, right? Initial entry point. Sometimes it's a wall, sometimes it's a door, sometimes it's a window, who knows? You place it, if you put it there and you're the number one man, you cover. And then after the breacher place it, you go back, you wait for the countdown to go in, initiate. And everyone else is supposed to be, you go up there to pull security, so you're supposed to back up and get this little bit of a standoff. But everybody's anxious to get in, so the people creep forward, and then you're like, then you start hearing the countdown, and you're like, oh my God, my face is like 2 feet from this charge. Like, so it's called leading a charge. And what we do, what we're taught, and everyone still does it today, is you just look down the way and you open your mouth to create, make sure there's no over pressurization injuries, and hope your eardrums hold, and eat it. And it goes off, and sometimes you get dazed. And, there were a few times where I would eat a charge, and I think I was in my second or third room clearing, like really conducting operations before I had my full wits about me. So things like that, right? So that added up over time. I was fortunate to be able to hide things. Even after like my after I got blown up in Afghanistan, I was at 18 Delta. So I was the medic. I was a senior medic on that deployment. And I was able to patch myself up. And, I don't remember these conversations, but a couple of teammates, like my team came up to me and they're like, hey, Rod, you okay? And I told him, I said, I'm effing fine. I don't remember saying that. I don't remember any of that. I remember a few things, bits and pieces. But all that is to say, I was able to continue in the fight. And I never, especially after I got blown up, and I lost vision in my left eye. I didn't lose my left eye. I just lost complete vision in it. I just didn't tell anybody anything, because in my heart and my belief was I needed to stay there with the team. And in all actuality, the responsibilities and duties they were placing on me, I wasn't able to fulfill at a level that they needed. So in essence, I was a liability, right? So all that stuff just started compounding and getting worse. And then finally I started, it became a little bit more of a challenge for me to hide some of the signs and symptoms associated with multiple traumatic brain injuries, as well as post-traumatic stress. I was abusing alcohol. I was not the nicest person. I was incredibly violent. I'm not saying I was violent in the streets or anything, but everything I did was tremendously aggressive. I was teaching at our sniper course here at Fort Bragg at the Special Forces Training Group, and it was just a lot. I was not the best person. I wasn't the best father. At that time I was still married to Kelly, the mother of my sons. I'm not the best husband. And then finally, some command recognized, hey, Rod, what's going on? And I was just like, you know what? Had a come to the Lord moment and told them, and they're like, hey, we need to get you checked out. I got sent to get checked out. I thought I was going to get fixed. And that's when I got sent to Walter Reed, and they were like, hey, you can no longer, after they did the assessment, I had a big laundry list of issues, that are associated with multiple brain injuries. Like, most people, they say that they probably have a chronic traumatic encephalopathy, we're looking at already onset dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. I've already started to have some tremors at this point. I mean, all kinds of things. But then post-traumatic stress, and they're like, you can no longer perform your duties as a Special Forces Green Beret. We're initiating medical retirement proceedings. That's the exact sentence that they told me. But even after listening to them, all that stuff that they said was wrong with me, I was like, okay, well, how do I fix it? Because I need to get back in the fight. But that was in it. So for me, it was like a loss of identity, and I'm not a good place. I was definitely not in a good place at that time. So I was not prepared for it, because the first thing they did to me, or for me, I'd say the first thing they did for me, and I'm incredibly thankful for it, is I was sent to an inpatient treatment facility, dual diagnosis program for post-traumatic stress and chemical dependency, before they could address any of the medical issues that I've been working on for these 12 years, right? I got sent to an inpatient facility, psychiatric facility, with, pajamas, slippers, no strings in your shoes, all of that, for a 4-week program, inpatient. Turned into an 8-week program. I needed the extra training, and I was on the necessary medication to get me to a level where I could start addressing some of the things. And I'm incredibly thankful for that opportunity. I'm not embarrassed of it. I could do, and that helped me kind of pull back a little bit and realize that maybe I still do have a future for myself. So my transition was not the best. But I'm very open about it. I'm not embarrassed. The fact that I was on, multiple types of medication at one point, SSRIs, antipsychotics. I mean, you name it. They probably had me on it, and I'm thankful. I'm thankful that those things got me to a point that I was able to address some of the issues I needed to address. Thankfully, I don't need this stuff anymore. So I'm very cautious when I talk about medications, because I know I needed it at the time, because I probably wouldn't be here had I not had that level of treatment.
Yeah, and I'm thank you first off for opening up and sharing about that. But looking at some people's reaction to medications, like I'm not going to do any kind of medications or anything. All they're doing is throwing pills at me and whatever. But sometimes I think, like in a case like yours, myself included, I think the medication is necessary to bring you to a level where maybe a therapy, like some sort of talk therapy type thing, can be effective. Because if you're so far off the charts with whatever it is that's going on with you, the therapy may not be able to kind of bring you back into that zone where therapy is going to be able to be effective, because your mind is just all over the place, and you're having all sorts of other issues, and not to mention, maybe if it's drinking or drugs or whatever someone might be on, it's just going to push you off into a different direction that you don't want to be in. And so, sometimes the medication is necessary, and it's not a problem that you are using some medication to help, get you to that point where you no longer need it, and probably maybe not even need the therapy, and you get to that point where you're okay. Maybe some days are not great, but you may have those off days, but you at least have that ability to have a normal day, and have a day that's you can wake up and you're like, what, I'm glad to be here, and I'm ready to rock and roll, and so
Yeah, exactly. The medication, and I should say also that I've been like involved in some type of athletics my entire life. I grew up playing soccer and then boxing, and of course in my career space, it was like your body was your tank, right? Like it was part of your job to be in shape. So incorporating a healthier living lifestyle. Getting back, realizing that, if you're in shape, you're better able to handle life's obstacles, both physical and emotional. So I really dove right back to that, because towards the end, when I was doing that, I was like, okay, well, I'm done. And I abandoned everything. I abandoned who I was, unfortunately. And then it took me a while to find the strengths of, that I had built over time.
Yeah.
And rely on them. And I was open to a lot of things, to include physical therapy, physical fitness, because I have a balance disorder too. So like, if you give me a field sobriety test, I can't pass it. I'm not going to be able to pass it. I could not pass it. If I ever, get pulled over and think I'm drunk, I'm going to say, it's just breathalyzer me, man. I can't walk no tight ropes, right?
Yeah. Right.
So, but incorporating all that and being an advocate for yourself is very important, and pursuing other treatment modalities. The hyperbaric therapy as well. A lot of the Eastern medicine focus, a lot of different things. So that along with medicine, it really got me to the point where I am today. Addressing hormones, right? Because my pituitary gland had been damaged so much that my body stopped producing testosterone.
Oh.
The doctor told me, he goes, you have the testosterone levels of a 2-year-old or an 80-year-old. And you're talking about this is it had been like 19 years in the Army. I'd been a special forces operator for 12 of those years, right? And I'm like, oh, that's not good, right? He's like, that's horrible. That's absolutely horrible, man. So addressing that as well with small dosages of hormone replacement therapy definitely got me back to a level where I could function and be a better human, really, to my sons and my loved ones.
Yeah, and your story, for the listeners, I don't think it's, unfortunately, I don't think it's unique in the sense that, like, there's other people out there who've had similar issues. They've been blown up. They've been suffered injuries, TBIs, other physical injuries, things like that, and sometimes they go down the wrong path and they just stay on that wrong path, and they don't see a way off of that path. But I mean, your story, we're going to get more into what you're doing now, but you've turned this pain and your experiences and all the negatives that went on into something incredible. And I want to talk about
Well,
that now. I want to talk about the memorial, the Global War on Terrorism Memorial. Um, so you obviously served during that time period. I served a lot. Many of us served. Probably most of the audience has served in the Global War on Terrorism, right? Um, you know, and then you uh, took some of those experiences and uh, you know turned it into something pretty damn cool. So tell us about the Global War on Terrorism Memorial. How you got involved with it, where the idea came from, and kind of where all this came from.
absolutely. Yeah, I think it's important for all of us that have been touched by this incredibly complex and difficult to define multi-generational war. We have to understand our experiences are our own, and they're so unique to ourselves. And,
Mm-hmm.
Even with my experiences of like my 21 years of service, my multiple deployments, the mother of my children, we're no longer married, but, Kelly, she served for 21 years, deployed 6 times. So I stayed home with the kids, while she would go off and serve. And she was a combat medic and involved I think she's seen a lot more combat than a lot of dudes I know. But, and then on my son, right? Like our most typical deployment was watching Antonio deploy to the Helmand province of Afghanistan, a place I'd been to twice. She had been to twice. And we were looking at that day, and I'm like looking for a moment of consolation. And I was just like, oh, maybe this is what my dad felt like, but then I thought more about it, like, there's no way he could understand what this would be like, not to diminish his how he felt watching me go to war, but what would have been like for my dad to watch me graduate airborne school and go fight the Viet Cong,
Mm.
or what would have been like for my grandfather to watch my father complete his artillery training in Fort Sill, Oklahoma, and then go fight Nazis or serve in the Pacific.
Yeah.
But when I say it like that, that's striking. People are like, oh my gosh. Well, guess what? That's a reality for some very, very small percentage of our families. You come from a family of service, so it's incredibly difficult and challenging, but we have to understand that this is incredibly complex. Even our own community is ignorant on a lot of things. It's one war. People call them wars. Well, there's different theaters, and no time did we ever consider a single operation a war. Unless it was a single operation, and that was what it conducted, and it was over afterwards. No one ever considers Operation Overlord, the Normandy invasion's main operation, its own separate war. At what point do we start considering Operation Enduring Freedom, Iraqi Freedom, New Dawn, Inherent Resolve, etc., etc.? Operations that are conducted under the auspices of the Global War on Terrorism, authorized by the AUMF, Authorization to Use Military Force, signed September 18th, 2001, which empowers the President of the United States to wage war, to fight terrorism globally. That's the Global War on Terrorism. So people still don't even understand that,
Yeah.
and it's there's a steep learning curve working on this project with educating everybody on it, because it is a very small percent. There's a tremendous amount of ignorance, but just reminding everybody that our mission here at the GWOT Memorial Foundation is to honor the people. I don't dive into policy or politics. I stay out of that, because you and I didn't write the policy that sent us to war, nor were we
Right.
involved in the political decisions that were conducted. It's people.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we zero in on. So the foundation came about in 2015. We're a 501c3. Now, why is it a charity to build a national war memorial? Well, that's the vessel to build national memorials, war memorials, and museums in Washington, which is pretty great if you think about it, because it gives the opportunity for the people to have a voice. So they came together in 2015. There was a few different people thinking about doing it, trying it. One person had purchased domain names. One person had talked to someone who had built one before. Another person was thinking about it, but then maybe was going on to build a traveling one. I mean, a group of them came together. So they've known each other, and I'm not one of the founders. I got to, tell people that. But they came together in 2015 and tried to come together and figure that out. In 2016, I met some of the board. Some of their board members. I was speaking at an event, and they're like, hey, Rod, we could really use some help. And I'm like, what are you guys doing? They explained it to me, and I was just thinking about it. And, my oldest son was getting ready to enlist, and I was like, man, I had been out of the Army a couple years. My wife at the time, Kelly, was still in, and I'm like, man, you know what? All right, I'll help. So then I joined the team in 2016, and I'm a member on the board of directors. Our first obstacle was to get exemption from a federal law that says a war has to be over for 10 years before a national war memorial can be built. Now, that law was written in 1986, and I don't fault Congress for approving and passing that law in 86, because no one forecasted it being this protracted war with potentially no end in sight. So we introduced the bill early in 2017. It swept through the House and Senate. In August of 2017, President Trump signed that bill into law. And that's when this small fledgling 501c3 with very little to no money of veterans and family members, that's when they handed us the staff. They're like, okay, you now, it's your job. You do it. So no one else anyone else could have done it to this point, but you're the ones that are charged with doing it. You have the designation. That's your job. You're authorized to organize, fundraise, and build the National GWOT Memorial in Washington, D.C. So this good idea fairy became like, how do you do that? Just think for a second. Like, how do you build a national war memorial? Like, unless you do it, you don't know how to do it. You can read about it, but unless you do it, you just don't know how to do it, because everything is different. And so it's a 24-step process. We follow the same roadmap that museums do. And, at that time, it was late 2017. Trying to figure things out. The foundation was like in a little bit of growth point, and not a little, but a really big growth point for us. Right after that, that's when I stepped into the leadership position in 2018 and started to build the team that you see today. The founders got us to that point, and they continue to support throughout the way. And they're doing great, tremendous things, across America with their own businesses and corporate America, raising families. We would not be here had it not been there for their foresight. So in 2018, I started to build a team that, if anyone goes to the website, that you'll see today. There's three things I've always looked for in building this team. These apply to you, Scott. One is ability. All right, a lot of people want to help, but what can you do? What are you going to bring? How can you support this? There's ability. The second thing is credibility. All right, well, kind of like, what do you work well with others? Is there some stuff? Are you going to detract from the mission? What is there? And the third thing, if there were pillars, it'd be my center pillar, and that's humility. If you understand that no matter what your experience is in the GWOT, it's got nothing to do with you, right? It's part of something bigger, which you have exhibited, throughout your entire podcast career, right? So that being said, we started to build the team. I'll run this a little bit. So nothing new has been approved to be built on the National Mall since 2003. And they said it deemed it a finished work of art. So they were going to build this memorial. They were like, okay, we got to find a site outside the mall to build it, like the Eisenhower Memorial behind the Air and Space Museum. World War I Memorial is, off to the side of the White House grounds. We got to find. They were talking about maybe Roosevelt Island, and most people never even go to Roosevelt Island. And so, we started speaking with our stakeholders, and everyone felt it belonged to the mall. And that's when I'm like, well, I guess I got to go back to Congress. So I met with the agencies that control the space, told them, hey, we want to build this on the reserve, is what's called the mall. They're like, right, you can't. And I know the law says you can't. And I said, well, I can, or you don't think I can? Because if I pass a bill, we can. They're like, right, look, this is 2019 at this point. And they're like, right, look, everybody's tried. People with a lot more money and influence have tried, and they failed. We're going to fight you every step of the way, because it is against the law. And I respect them for their jobs. They do it. They follow the law. They follow the law to the letter. Mm-hmm. And I respect them for that. And they just didn't think we would be able to do that. Everyone had tried. And I'm like, well, I'm not asking permission from you. I'm just letting you know what we're doing. We've always been open and transparent in everything we've done. Then I sought out veteran leadership in the House and Senate to assist us. And I went to our brothers and sisters that have been selected by the people of America on. And again, I speak people, not policy or politics. So we introduced a bill with the Republican and Democrat in the House and the Senate to seek the exemption. And just again, focusing on people, not policy or politics. We were, 2.5 years later after that, President Biden signed that bill into law and granted us the exemption to build the memorial, which is just adjacent to Lincoln. So that's which is a tremendous success for us with that. Concurrent to that, we've been working on our design, which is a very different approach, as well as the selection of our designer, which we announced this last October at MIC, actually. Mm-hmm. And, I'm excited to share with you that hopefully here pretty soon we'll be able to show everybody the design that we've been working on with our Design Advisory Council, a council of stakeholders that have engaged directly with our designer as the vessel and the voice to create the design. And they've also taken in consideration the survey I started. I started collecting this data in 2018, and basically input like design data. We launched it publicly. I only had like 200 people fill it out. They're sitting in my fire safe here at the house. But I wanted to be able to get all 50 states and every demographic from World War II to today to get a voice, so we could see what affect the pulse of those that love our nation's warfighters and their families. And really excited that it was a 5 to 7 minute survey. It was asking a lot, right? Everyone's attention span is 30 to 60 seconds these days. Really excited to say we succeeded in the 2 goals that I had set. We got people from all 50 states. We got every demographic from World War II today. We got all the services. But then the number of people that filled it out is 20,000. So all that is put into a document, and the data exists, and the designers took that into consideration. So with the design and our council, we're getting ready to reveal what our memorial will be looking like pretty soon.
That's awesome, and I'm excited to see it. I haven't seen it yet, and I don't know what it looks like, but I'm excited to see it because it's one of those things where, just kind of sharing a little background on why I was so enthusiastic about wanting to join you guys. When you guys approached me and asked me to join as one of the fellows, I was like, this is awesome. I love what you guys were doing. When I was at MIC and I heard what you guys were doing, I was like, hell yeah, this is awesome. It really got me fired up. And then we met, and we were chatting for a little bit, and it was just a great time. But so I was in DC in 2019. President Trump had invited some Gold Star families to the White House, and my family was one of them. So we got a chance to go to the White House and meet the president, and they had a whole ceremony, which was completely awesome. It was just like a very surreal experience getting there. But I went for a run one morning, and I went around the White House, around the mall, stopped at all the war memorials, and as I was going through, I stopped at each one, and I was thinking, where the hell is ours? Where is our memorial? And come to find out, all these years later, it was in the works, and it was being put together. And I kind of suspected that it was one of those things where it was like X number of years after the war is over, that's when they can build the memorial, and the war technically wasn't over yet. So obviously there wasn't going to be anything there. But it for me, I was like, I really don't want to be 85, 90 years old, having to be pushed off a plane in a wheelchair to go check out the memorial for the war that I served in, or even worse, not be here anymore and not be able to see that type of thing, which I know happened to many, World War II, or, even earlier World War I, and those veterans. They never got a chance to see the memorial that was built for them. And so, I'm super excited to be a part of it. And I think this is going to be truly incredible memorial. We're gonna be the best. We're gonna blow them all away. But tell us more about the project. I know there's a lot going into it, and some people who aren't intimately involved in the process might just think, well, okay, we'll get some land and get someone to build it and just go do it, right? But there's a lot more to it. There's it's funded through donations. It's got a whole design process that you have to go through. Tell us a little bit about the project. Like where is it at now, and what's left? What is it that you need to do to make this a reality?
Absolutely. So this is entirely privately funded. Meaning we can't receive any federal tax dollars. Now, people are like, well, why not? Why could we? Well, at first that in our enabling legislation states that no federal funding will be used. So we can't get it. Like if the government was like, hey, here's X dollars, we couldn't. They wouldn't do it. And if you really think about that, is some people have different opinions on well, it should. They made the deal. Well, it's still taxpayer dollars, and I call myself the bullet magnet for the foundation. I've been doing this, damn near a decade now. So I get all the crazy and colorful messages from people that just don't like the effort. They have opinions, they have emotions attached, and they should. We're talking about a war, right? So I welcome it. But the reason I say that is some of the messages I get, particularly from our community, is like, why are we spending money on this? We should be fighting veteran homelessness. We should be fighting veteran suicide. We should be fighting. And I agree with them. But who's we?
Right.
Who's we? Unless I just provide opportunities for people to talk. Who's the we? I'm not receiving any taxpayer dollars. So what that does what that does what that does is it allows those that want to step forward and help and support and donate. Okay, those I use the term investors, right? They're investing in something. It's not a donor. Donors not a bad word, but I prefer to look at them as all as investors. We're building something together, right? So entirely privately funded. I mentioned earlier, it's a 24-step process. We're currently in steps 13 through 19, which is design, approval, design concept approval, and then schematic approval. Now, during this phase right here, we're going to unveil our design. Then I have to get the concept approved by a few of the government agencies that oversee this: Commission of Fine Arts, National Capital Planning Commission, and National Capital Memorial Advisory Commission are the big three that we'll meet with and then go over this, and they'll have their own opinions and views. They look at them as curators of the mall. They're, especially like National Park Service, they're the future owners. This is National Parks land. So it's not mine. I didn't have to buy the land. I had to pass a piece of legislation to build it where it's at. It's going to be granted. So they said we could build it in DC, but where it landed depended on a lot of variables. But when we passed the second bill to build it on the mall, that automatically is okay. What's probably going to be National Park Service land, and the site we located that we're at it's an NPS. So all those agencies, and especially the National Park Service, they're our forever partners, right? Those NPSs, I'm building. They're the ones that are going to be responsible on the day of dedication for maintenance and upkeep. It's not us. We will task with organizing, fundraising, and building the memorial, and then we'll run programming at the site as all the other foundations do for each of the respective memorials that they built. But it belongs to them. It belongs to the people of America. So going through, that's the steps we're in right now. We're going to unveil the design here, as I mentioned, sometime here pretty soon, hopefully, as we're refining some things that we've seen, and then we'll get it approved, design concept and schematic approved. And then once we have everything done, we will conduct a financial audit, and they'll make sure we have sufficient funds to complete the project, because it makes sense. The process is very hard. It's really challenging, but it makes sense, because they don't want us to dig a big hole and be like, oh, we ain't got enough money. Then the taxpayer has to step in, and it's just a nightmare, right?
Yeah.
So we'll go through financial audit, prove we have 110% of total construction costs on hand. That 10% is not for any type of unforeseen overages. The government just takes that, places it in a trust, and what they say is it goes towards any repair of the memorial, for any catastrophic repairs, but it goes into the U.S. Treasury. Then the remaining funds, okay, we will then begin. We can stick one shovel. That's when we can start digging. And it's about an 18 to 24 month build process. So what did all that mean in a timeline? So we hope to be able to have concept approved and total funds raised. Well, our current goal is 110 million by the end of next year, end of 26, and then start digging by Q1 2027, be done by the end of 28.
Okay. Well,
That's our current timeline right now, right? And I'm dealing with the federal government. There's a lot of things that can occur. There's a lot of variables. It's entirely privately funded. The fundraising aspect's a giant hurdle. It terrifies me every single day when I think about it. But when we think about it, also it's important for me to mention, I don't think I mentioned it yet, is we're honoring everyone that served, right? A lot of people don't know the very first KIA, the very first American that loss of life as a result of an enemy engagement was Johnny Michael Spann. Mike, he worked for the CIA Special Activity Division. He was one of the CIA guys with Team Alpha that was inserted with my brothers, the SF guys from 5th Group that were the first ones on the ground, right? First military boots on the ground. What about them, right? No one even talks about that. And it wasn't until 2019 the Department of Labor published a report to try to see how many losses, non-uniform individuals. That number is pretty easy to find. DOD is really good at tracking that. But how many people have we lost that weren't in the military? I would go on target, every time. And there were people dressed like me, looking like me, carrying the same stuff I was carrying. They weren't in the Army. They weren't in the Navy. They weren't in the military. They were, whether they were working for one of our three-letter agency partners or some other capacity, they're out there and bullets and bombs are indiscriminate.
Yeah.
So back to that report the Department of Labor published, because they're the ones that are responsible for tracking that data. They published in 2019, and they found that over 3,400 non-uniformed individuals, to the best of their knowledge, have lost their lives in support of this incredibly complex war, right? And pause for a second and think about those families like, damn. And anybody that's deployed knows for a fact, how many FOBs or fire bases you've been on, like who's there, who's bringing you the stuff in the trucks, right? Mm-hmm. It's some guy from Oregon that can drive a truck, and he's making money for his family, and that's his motivations, whether it was to support, whatever his motivations are, it doesn't matter. He's there in a war zone supporting this incredibly complex war. We mobilized in so many different ways that people don't even talk about it, and they don't realize it, and they forget and fail to realize that that's the reason why we only have 1% that serve. We have men and women performing a wartime mission in a high threat environment that was once performed by one of us in uniform that isn't anymore. I'm not saying that's bad. That's not it. Again, going back to people. I talk about the people.
Yeah.
I talk about those that have served and sacrificed. So it's inclusive of everybody. But we're also going to do more than just talk about what occurred in theater, because of all my friends that I've lost that aren't here anymore, because of their service in the global war on terrorism. 10 of them lost the war at home. Mm-hmm. Some through illness and some at their own hands.
Yep.
The Vietnam Memorial in 2002 or 3 put a plaque at the base of those 3 soldiers that overlooked the Vietnam Memorial, honoring those that have lost their lives to whether it was Agent Orange. My father, thankfully, is still with us. That's something he deals with every single day. Or that lost that took their own lives. Mm-hmm. We're doing everything. The war comes home for anybody who's done that, understands that, and why not talk about it? Why not recognize it? And also address the family aspects. I've said it, like the most difficult deployment weren't any of the ones I did. It was watching my loved ones go to war. Yeah. So doing more than just, that's for the family. No, let's talk about that. Let's share their stories as well. Let's talk about, those children that are around today that don't remember, the parent that they lost. Mm-hmm. So it's all inclusive. It's very, very important for us to tell the whole story about the people that have fought in this war.
And that was one of the things that I really liked about the way you guys are approaching it, that we are approaching this. It's hard for me to think of myself as part of this group now, but it is. I am at this point. So sometimes I'll slip and I'll say you guys, but it's us. It's all of us. And but that's one of the things I like the most of how you're approaching this is that it's inclusive of everybody who was involved, was touched in some way, shape, or form. I had Megan Taylor on a little while ago for, she's one of the Gold Star Fellows, Gold Star child. She lost her dad in combat, and she's a part of this too. And because her story matters, and mm-hmm. The sacrifices that she made and her family made, those things matter. And it's not just her, like she's the only one who matters, but it's people like her, because plenty of children lost their parents in this conflict. And so we have to look at that like those people matter too. And so that's a piece of the story. Of the larger picture of this story, right? Yeah, you can talk about an individual battle and the individual soldier on the battlefield and what he went through, but back home he had a mother and a father and siblings and aunts and uncles and whatever who were worried about that person, and those people matter too. And so, yeah, going back to the people aspect of it, is that those people and their stories, they matter too. It's not just the men and women who didn't make it home, or the men and women who went and fought the war, or any of that. It's everybody, and that it's all inclusive, and that's something I really loved about the way this is being approached.
I think if we tell more of these stories, those that didn't serve will realize that we're not different than you. Mm-hmm. We're really not.
Right.
We made certain choices, and did certain things, may have experienced and seen some different stuff, but we're not different. If you want to see the strength of this nation, I want you to look at those that have served I want you to look at those that serve for something. We sure as heck didn't do it for money. We didn't do it to get famous. We gave a lot. I had a lot of job satisfaction. I'll be quite honest. I loved what I did. I loved my job. But we didn't do that. So having the voice is of the people is very important, so they can recognize. And the more of these stories we tell, like, wow, they'll identify. They realize we're not that different than most. And even for the design, the reason I decided to pursue the design in the way we pursued it was because I always wondered how many Vietnam veterans did Mai Lin talk to. She's the designer of the Vietnam Wall. I don't know. I'll be honest. I don't know how many she did talk to. And even with my experience, and I consider myself an artist as well, and I work in steel and do some different things. I couldn't design it because my view would be so skewed to my own personal experiences. Even if I listened to everybody else, I couldn't capture that.
Yeah.
So the design team has been very important that we brought in a world-class team that could step into this, probably the most difficult place to build anything in the United States, maybe the world, I don't know. I mean, with 20 layers of bureaucracy and politics that can, with the gravitas, experience, professionalism, and possessing those three attributes, I always look for ability, credibility, and humility. We ended up with the team so they could sit there and listen to our stakeholders. They really went through the data that we gave them on the 20,000 people that filled out the survey. They listened and sat through the design advisory council engagements and engaged and had back and forth. And before they did that for months before they even put pen to paper. That was part of it. So capturing that was very important, having the voice. So when people go there, it's not Rod didn't design it. No, yeah. I just tried to manage it, right? It wasn't any single member of our team that, oh, this is what we want. No, it's not. And I'm very excited to show everybody when we get to that point what this will look like.
Yeah. What does it mean to you personally, the memorial?
Man, I'm a pretty boring guy. I do this and try and spend time with my two grandsons or my sons. That's pretty much it. So it's just, this is my focus 24/7, 365. It's been for quite some time. And I only say that to, maybe add credence to me saying I don't have the words. And you'd think I should, because this is what I do mostly, but I don't. I don't have the words to say what this means. I've tried. I've struggled. People started asking me the question pretty recently, and I don't. Other than it's personally, I say personally for me, it's my opportunity to continue to serve this nation, in my own way, in my own humble way, and through the resources and that I have, resources with people. I've always valued personal relationships over professional relationships, and those are the people that I've brought to this table. Everyone that's come and sitting at this table has those attributes I mentioned a couple of times. So I think it's my opportunity to bring some amazing people together and to write that visible, physical, tangible love letter to our nation's greatest asset, which is the men and women that step forward to serve us all and service to the point where they're willing to sacrifice their lives and the families that support them. It's my way to thank them. When I started working on this project, the people that pushed back most was us, was our own community. They're like, why are you doing that? We don't need that. I don't need that. I don't need that. And I thought about it. I'm like, Dad, I was like, what do you mean? Because I wasn't thinking about me. I was thinking about them. But when I talk about it to people, they think about, I don't need that. So it took me a couple of years to figure this out. I'm like, wait a minute. I know what they're doing. They're thinking about, I don't need that recognition. So I started, when people would tell me that, I say, okay, and people still tell me that. I say, all right, if you don't think you need it, I want you to think of somebody that maybe didn't come home. I want you to think about their families, even if you knew them or not.
Yeah.
I want you to think about those you may know you served with that are struggling right now. Do they deserve it? Every single person I posed that question, they're like, absolutely. I said, good. That's what I want you to think. I'll think about you. Because that's how we serve. That's what we do. That goes back to what we started talking about. My father and grandfathers and tios, my uncles, they talk about those they serve with. It's the people. They don't think about themselves. They always talk about those they serve with. So in essence, when I reframe it or make them look at it from that lens, they understand the reason why. And it is my belief, my profound belief that once we'll be able to do this and we can unveil this, then this nation will take a knee in reverence and honor those that have given so much, those that those that don't feel they need it, that we can impart value onto them. Because you know what? If someone feels value, you know what they're not going to do? They're not going to kill themselves.
That's right.
Right? So this memorial is going to save lives. So that's, when people ask me, like what you asked me, is like, what does this mean? I go, it provides me an opportunity to serve, to thank, tells the Somalis that, to thank our nation's greatest asset and to save them, to keep them around.
Absolutely. I know a lot of GWOT veterans have struggled with things like what you talked about, your transition out of the military, coming back into society, and just struggling with that, especially with a rather sudden. I've talked to many people who've been medically retired from the military, and it's like usually abrupt. It's not like a thing that takes place over the course of years that you are able to plan for. It's usually like, hey, you know what? Light switch is going off and you're out, you're done, and so they struggle with that. But they also struggle with things like, the withdrawal from Afghanistan, like how that took place. And, not to get into politics. I know that's not what we're doing here. And that's not my intention with bringing this up either. But it stings, those types of things sting when you see that, the war that we fought was to go and, kick ass against the Taliban, and then the Taliban just kind of walks in almost seemingly like nothing really happened, and it's back to business as usual over there. And that stings. I know at first for me it stung, and I was really angry at how that happened. But my thought is that, being able to see a memorial like this is a way that people will be able to maybe get some healing and closure, seeing that, hey, you know what, someone actually gives a damn about what we did, right?
Yeah, and that's what it is. It's showing them that we give a shit, right? This nation does. They really do. I know I do. I know you do. Mm-hmm. But to tell them and remind them of that, because they don't. And to talk about like withdrawal from Afghanistan or whatever people want to call it. I've got my own personal opinions on that. Very strong ones. Sure. To be honest. But they remind those, all of us that feel that way, and especially those that were involved in that, is they didn't make the decisions. They didn't write the policy. Going back to what I've said several times, is this is about people, not policy or politics. I don't understand that. I'll never presume to have all the information or know why certain decisions are made with information I don't have or may never have. I don't know that, but I do know why. If my nation calls, when I was served, my nation called and I was sent, yes, I did it. But when it came down to it, I wasn't doing it for some foreign national policy. I was doing it because my familia, my left and right. Right. Yeah. Which was my motivation to, after I received my deployment in 06, where I'm like legally blind. I'm like, nope, I'm going to stay. I'm going to stay. And people ask me like, damn, how did you do that? They think it's like, some people said, man, that's pretty amazing. I go, no. I thought, how did you do that? And I'm like, well, I think everyone can understand it if I say it like this. I don't think anybody that got injured, if they had the opportunity to go back or opportunity to hide it and continue on, would have done anything different.
Yeah.
Right? Think about it this way. Like if everyone's played kickball at some point in their life, right? Imagine you're 8 years old, you're playing kickball, and you're just killing it. Your team is doing really well. You're running in between bases, you fall down and skin your knee. Are you going to stop playing kickball? Hell no. You're going to keep playing kickball. So that was all I did. As I said, I love my job. And that's how it is. But like, I'm serving and doing what it was for there. Was I affecting national policy? I don't know. I like to think maybe. I don't know. I've since become far more educated in that realm with my pursuit of higher education and my bachelor's and master's. But I go back to that young 18-year-old kid in Somalia and, seeing those smiles. Mm-hmm. I'm like, all right, I may have impacted someone just for that day.
Yeah.
And if everything I did helped a child, a family, some people, a village, a region for a day, okay, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and there's a saying I've heard is that you may not have changed the world with that action, but you may have changed the world for that person.
Yeah.
You know, that may have made a world of difference for that one person. And so for all the folks who served, in Afghanistan, we're just talking about that withdrawal and how people, may be upset with how that happened. Yeah, sure, maybe we didn't change the world, but we changed the world for some of those people who we affected. The schools that got built, the children that got educated, the infrastructure that got put in place that made life better for those people. The fact that they didn't have to live under the tyranny of the Taliban for the time that we were able to keep them at bay. They had that little glimpse of freedom, and
Yeah.
they while, yeah, sure, maybe we didn't change the world and it didn't change everything for everybody forever, it changed stuff for enough people for that period of time that it's like, you know what, it was worth it, because there are some people who may have never been able to know what it was like to live without the Taliban had we not showed up. And so, yeah, sure, it was a country at war. There were a lot of bombs and a lot of bullets flying and, things like that. But we did make a difference. And, I don't let anyone tell you any different. We did some good stuff there. So,
Yeah.
I think, additionally, on top of all this, I want to make sure that this memorial is not just for the men and women and the families and the people who were a part of this conflict. I want to make sure that it's one of those enduring things that lasts and educates the future generations about the sacrifices, about the service, about the things that people had to do during this time period that we call the global war on terrorism. I want to make sure that those people are knowledgeable and educated, about what we did, and so it doesn't become forgotten, and that we don't repeat mistakes, and so that we, so that these things are enduring. It just lasts now forever because we'll have a memorial there, and I think that this is a possible way to do that, is having that memorial that families will visit when they're on vacation in DC, or hopefully some policymakers, congressmen and senators and stuff, they'll see it at some point, and even future presidents, they'll see it too, and hopefully when they're directing troops, they'll be like, you know what, let's make sure this is worth it, and this is I think a good reminder of that.
Yeah, I agree. It's there isn't a reminder in the city that makes the decisions and writes the policies that sends our sons and daughters, mothers and fathers off to fight. There isn't. And, I'm excited to be able to provide that opportunity and have a continued engagement like you mentioned. This is the only war, where our sons and daughters watch their mothers and fathers go off to fight in the war, only to serve in that same war. That's never happened before. So you're talking about two completely different generations right now that we can reach out and touch and continue to educate. And if you think about that, that's pretty profound, and this memorial itself is challenging everybody on the concept of a memorial. And I've told people, like, look, it's a war memorial, but this is a warrior's memorial. It's to the warriors. It really is the warriors and their families, the warrior families. It's a warrior memorial. And people get wrapped up into it, and it's war. It's going to be real. I'm not putting kitten mittens on when we start telling this. And some of the design aspects when we come out, some people may not like, but we're not going to not tell the whole story.
Sure.
But it's actually, if you think about those war memorials, why do we fight? And we fight for peace. In order to maintain peace, you need people that are willing to deliver violence onto those that would deliver violence onto us. And those are very special people in a number of different ways. They're very valuable, which is why I consider our most cherished asset. We don't honor them. We don't show them. Well, who the hell's going to do it in the future?
Yeah.
So this is a Warriors Memorial,
Absolutely.
and we will have so many opportunities to continue telling those stories, all of these stories.
Yeah, I remember when I was in Afghanistan, one of our interpreters asked me, like, what are you doing here? Like, why are you here? Me specifically, like, why are you here? And one of those things that I said was, I don't want my son to have to come here and do this. Like, if he does come here, I want him to be able to come here as a tourist, as someone who can come and visit a place. And, you know,
Yeah.
unfortunately, I don't think that's going to be the case, but at least he doesn't have to go there, with a gun and a pack on his back and dressed in funny fatigues. He doesn't have to do all that stuff. Unfortunately for you and your family, that was reality, and that's something that did have to happen. And I wanted that war to be over the second I stepped foot off that off of that country. I wanted it to be over then, but unfortunately things don't work out quite that way. But it's it's a lot. But this
Yeah, and
memorial.
I think
Go ahead.
no, I think what I worry that our population does is we devalue our individual service
Yeah,
by doing so, and this is the counter to that, right? That's why I say I want to be able to like, no, look, you matter, right? Whether you feel it or not, I'm telling you. That's why I do it. Like I get all kinds of crazy messages and people. It's really interesting, and God bless them. I wish them the best, and I'm not judging anybody. Right?
Yeah.
We've got to remember what we're talking about here. But it's important. It's vital. It's more than important. It's vital that we understand that that they really are. You really are our part of our nation's greatest asset.
Absolutely.
Because the one asset we can't ever get back is time. And when you add up the time that so many of us have given, and the time that we'll never see again for those that made the ultimate sacrifice, I mean, you can't put a value on that. And it requires our best. And it's just why I'm so maniacal or committed or focused on getting this done in spite of all the no's people have told me in the past. Like, Rod, that's impossible. You're not really there. There's no way. Like, I can't. I should write a book someday and put all those emails, redact information, but all the colorful messages. I should throw those in a book someday.
Yeah.
Just for people to read it, not just because it's really interesting. And I've learned a lot from them. But just it's important for this incredibly sacred mission to be accomplished as soon as possible.
I think the best way to get any kind of any soldier of any branch, I'm using the term soldier generically, warrior, maybe a better term. Any way to get a job done is tell them it's impossible. That it can't be done, because they're going to be like, screw that. This is getting done.
Yeah, I like to listen to experts in the space.
Sure.
But like how some of the times I was told it was impossible, like Rod, a lot more people with a lot more money and a lot for like the condescension. I'm like, damn, okay.
Oh,
and
yeah, maybe sprinkle some of that in there too.
I love it when someone underestimates me. Right. Even when I used to fight, right, I would boxing as a kid or some of the other stuff I did afterwards, right. I would love it when I would step in there and the person I'm going against was like, I'm going to take it. Mm-hmm. Right. I'm not a big scary guy at all. I don't think I am, because if you underestimate me, then you're giving me far more opportunity than you should, especially if you want to beat me.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That just adds more fuel to the fire.
Yeah.
So before we wrap up, I want to make sure listeners know if they want to, whether they're veterans, military families, just supporters in general, if they want to make sure that this memorial gets completed, sticks to that timetable that you listed earlier, what are some of the best ways that they can reach out and contribute?
Yeah, absolutely. So if they go to visit our website, GWOT there's a number of ways you can do. What I always tell people is go on there, sign up for our updates, to stay in touch. And I promise I'm not going to spam you. I'm not going to send you an email every week. We send out information when it's relevant. My email inbox is full of stuff. I'm like, you just told me this last week, but in different words, right? From the same people. I'm not going to do that. I promise I won't do that. The team won't do that. We're a very small team. So sign up for updates, follow our socials. We're pretty active, there and sharing highlights and updating, not just what we're doing, but our partners, as well as, recognizing those that are still wearing the uniform. Like, we talk about, we just, about the tragedy that occurred in the training accident, over in Europe when we lost those 4 soldiers, right? We talk about the familia, right? We want to be sure everyone's informed.
Yeah.
But you'll see just about everything we do is people, not policy or politics. We don't do that. I know a lot of them. We're really easy people to talk to. We got great allies, but just follow us on socials, sign up for updates. And if you do have the capacity to become one of our investors, there's always a donate button. There's always an opportunity to contribute in whichever way you can feel. But I would ask anybody that's listening to this is to find 3 veterans and tell them we're doing this. A lot of people get upset when they're like, Rod, how come I didn't know about this? How come I didn't know? And I'm like, well, with limited resources, I could do one of 2 things. I could have spent money telling everybody, hey, look what I'm doing, but not succeeded, or I could have focused on the mission. And that's been the focus. It's very, limited resources. Okay, we got to focus on this. We got to get this. The awareness piece will come, right? That's one of the reasons. So I'm asking you to give me a hand here. If you could find 3 veterans, reach out to them, tell them this is going on, and tell them I love them.
Yeah. And that's part of why you're here today, is that awareness piece. I want to make sure that this gets out to as many people as possible, raise that awareness, make sure that people know that, hey, there's someone in your corner that's fighting for you, that wants to make sure that your service is remembered and honored, and that it mattered to people. It may not feel like it matters to you, because you're like, I don't need this, for me, that, like you were saying before, it's like, for me, I don't really need that. It's kind of like when, a guy gets, sick, or, hurts his leg or something like that, and he's like, I don't need to go to the doctor. I don't need that for me. But maybe you don't feel like you need it for you. You probably do, but think about your family, your kids that you can't run around in the yard because you hurt your leg or something like that. Like, go get fixed. Go take care of yourself. And this is kind of, I look at it kind of a similar way. Is that this will lead people to get the recognition that they rightfully deserve. And I think this is just a great thing. I really do encourage people to go to the website and subscribe, emails, socials, all that kind of stuff, and make a donation if that's something in your heart that you can do, financially. I think it's super important, and hopefully we can reach many people with this episode. So thank you, Rod, for taking the time to come on the show. This has been an absolute pleasure, and like I said, I've been looking forward to it for a long time, and this has been great. So thank you so much.
No, an honor is mine, man. This is just one of many more conversations I look forward to having with you, hermano. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.